QB1 is already making a believer out of this Oklahoma Sooners legend.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Today's episode is brought to you by TurboTax. Ready for stress-free taxes and the most money back guaranteed? Head over to turbotax.com today and get matched with your expert at turbotax.com. He's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. And practice has been open to the media actually a little bit more than I expected it to in the early going. But one Teddy Layman got to get out to practice on Saturday, and on the Oklahoma Breakdown gave a rave review of John Mateer, Jay.
Yeah, Teddy's pretty solid when it comes to the hopium. He doesn't really just inhale that much of it. He's very level about a lot of stuff. He'll point out people that look good, point out people that, could be better, or, he's not very negative about things, but he'll be cautiously optimistic in his conversation. He was kind of losing his mind about John Mateer, and it was him and Gabe, and it was less about just him being just overly outstanding overall. It's more of he's being a leader. You can tell that he's in charge. He's ripping dudes for messing up their blocks, messing up their routes. He's getting on the running backs for their assignments. And then he's praising the catches. He's praising people hitting the routes right. You can tell that he has true command. And to be absolutely honest, we didn't have this last year. That was something that was, as Michael Hawkins Jr. was, growing up, he was still learning and trying to get himself going. Same thing with even Jackson Arnold. Both of them being super young, they weren't super vocal just yet. Michael Hawkins was just very dazzling out there when he did go out and did some shocking stuff. And Jackson Arnold, the reports were he was being forged in fire. John Mateer is the complete opposite. He's out there cooking. And it appears that he is coming out there as a leader, John. And that to me, that's excitement enough for me in this whole situation.
The thing that stood out, Teddy says he's an NFL quarterback. And I think that that's encouraging. Now, how high could he be drafted? That's in the eye of the beholder. But the fact that he sees an NFL quarterback in just one practice session, I think that speaks volumes to the potential that John Mateer has. Now, again, it's potential. This is spring ball. This isn't against, SEC competition in the fall where the stakes are high, the emotions are high. It's against a good defense. I'm not going to sit here and downplay it, but I'm saying it's a different environment, right? It's not like you're playing in Neyland Stadium in November and you're fighting for your playoff lives, or you're playing in the Red River Showdown on the second weekend of October. Like, you're in a controlled environment. The fact that the offense was humming, according to Teddy Layman, it was under control. They were moving the ball. Everybody seemed to know what they were doing. And if they didn't know what they were doing, John Mateer was getting them corrected and getting them lined up properly. He, like you mentioned, was in command. So for early spring, that's a great sign. And because I was the one that was gassing up Jackson Arnold all offseason last year, talking about how he was going to go Super Saiyan, I want to be a little more reserved as I talk about John Mateer and this team in general. Because, one, I don't want to do you all a disservice as you listen and watch this show. At the same time, I'm in a show me what you're capable of on the field against another opponent before I get too overly excited.
And I totally understand that. And that's very fair. The excitement about Jackson Arnold coming after that Arizona game and the Bowe game, that's where we were all at. And I was kind of opposite. I was a little bit more cautiously optimistic. For me, it was, and this was before I joined you, John, here on Locked On. If anybody, and viewers, follow me over at Unfair Sports and was listening to me, I always preached this, that I expected Jackson Arnold to be forged in fire. So it was going to be really hard for him to figure it out. That was probably one of the best defenses he was going to see throughout the entire season. And so he was going to need to figure out how that was going to work for him. But it was going to be more reliant on the wide receiver room and the running backs, basically all the skills guys, to help him to be able to get acclimated. And because he didn't have most of his skills guys, I totally saw that he was going to be able to fail. And so I was opposite of you, John, on that one. This one, I'm back opposite because I'm gassing up John Mateer. He walks in with 3,900 yards of total offense, and this is his offense. So he knows the ins and outs of this, and he's teaching his teammates something that we did not have last year. It was more so everybody else. I mean, the offense was built to be for Jackson Arnold, but it wasn't his strengths, I guess you could say. At least it didn't seem like it. But you're right. You're totally right to kind of tone it down and wait and see, because it needs to be proven to you, because you were burned bad last year. We all were. We were all burned by the 5-star, thinking he was going to be just he's going to go Super Saiyan and be just the most elite out there, and he was going to show up and show out, because the Arizona game did show you that. The BYU game, when he came in at the second half, that made you feel like, okay, he's starting to show some adjustments. So I totally get it, but the hype that Teddy was giving was the complete opposite of what you were getting out of the Jackson Arnold hype or any hopium they gave. With Mateer, I mean, they say, the throws, like they said, NFL quarterback, smooth throwing motion, it looked good, but it was all emphasis on the leadership components. And that, to me, makes me feel like we're going back to the Dillon Gabriel era. That was the hype we got out of Dillon Gabriel in camp. And to me, Dillon delivered whenever his offensive coordinator let him be able to deliver, right? Because to me, I felt like those two losses, in 23 was the coach not letting the quarterback throw the ball in a game that he was the better quarterback. He should have been letting him throw the ball. It was too much. It was too much conservativeness on the field, and you got to be more aggressive. But the way Teddy, to me, is really talking up Mateer, just those leadership components, it really makes me feel like we got Dillon Gabriel back.
And I think we got better. We got better connectivity this year.
Yeah.
Seth Luttrell came in as the offensive coordinator last year, and the talk was he was trying to install or keep the offense the same, use Jeff Lebby's offense. To me, if you're an offensive coordinator, you need to run your offense.
Yep.
I get having cohesion and continuity and all that matters, sure, but don't do that. Like, that's like me trying to speak French. I don't speak French. Like, or I lived overseas and I learned languages in East Africa for several years, and I wasn't fluent. It's the same thing. Like, me trying to speak the language over there is like Seth Luttrell trying to call Jeff Lebby's offense last year. It just didn't work. And there was no connectivity. Well, this year you have better connectivity between the quarterback and the offensive coordinator, because the offensive coordinator is running his system, and John Mateer has a lot of experience in that system. He's got multiple years of experience in that system, but 1 year as a starter in that system, and he was very, very productive. Yeah. So I am encouraged, and I am confident that he's going to be really, really good. I'm also I just want to see it, man, because I just think that this is a big time prove it year for the entire program. Not just the quarterback, not just the offense, but the entire program as a whole. It's riding on, hey, we're 6-7, 2 out of the last 3 years. We've got to be in playoff contention. That's what we expect, especially in a 12-team playoff. There's no reason that Oklahoma shouldn't be in the playoff, in a 12-team playoff. That is bare minimum if you're at the University of Oklahoma. And for this entire team, for John Mateer, for Brent Venables, for Ben Arbuckle, that's the expectation. And yes, they've got the toughest schedule in the country, according to ESPN. Yes, they are turning over a lot. Yes, they've got wide receivers that are banged up again because we can't get any luck out of the wide receiver room. They got to go prove it on the field, and they got to go beat some teams that they're not supposed to beat, and have a season kind of like that 2000 season where nobody's expecting anything out of them, and they vastly exceed expectations.
The good thing is knock on wood, the transfer is still looking solid. And based upon the early reports coming in, as we talked about yesterday, that wide receiver room appears to have some guys that are stepping up. But the good thing is with the early reports, as Teddy mentioned, John Mateer is giving you guys exactly what we said we would get out of him coming in, especially early, is a leader that's going to push the wide receiver room, the offensive line, push everybody to excellence and expect that out of them. And the same thing he expects out of himself. That's all we can ask for here in spring. And if they continue to stack good days on top of good days, like one report I read from a buddy said that he heard from practice is he basically said, don't expect to hear anything about John Mateer from me unless it's super spectacular or it's a bad day, because he is solid and he's going to be solid every single day in practice.
Yeah, and last year a lot of the buzz was Jackson Arnold's having a hard time.
Yep,
and
that's exactly what it was.
And that translated to the regular season. So here's hoping that everything we're hearing about John Mateer is going to come to fruition in 2025, and Oklahoma is going to have a little sooner magic. Coming up, we're going to talk about the tight end room and how they can improve and help this offense improve next on Locked On Sooners. This is a message from sponsor Intuit TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying if you were going to get any money back, and then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now, this is Taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Jay, the tight end room on offense is probably the position that I would say needs to improve the most given recent history. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say Bowe Sharp was bad. Bowe Sharp was put in a position where he was expected to be your number one target because of all the injuries, when he really should have been maybe your fourth or fifth option in the passing game. So he was solid for what he was asked to do. He was just asked to do way too much. Still, you go back to the 2023 season with Austin Stogner, it was not good. So they need to have, as a group, a much better season than what we've seen each of the last 2 years, both as a receiver and as a blocker.
Yeah, and you'll catch me on record saying this once and once again that I would have liked to have kept Bowe Sharp. I would have liked to have kept him on the roster because he's going to be a fantastic fifth or sixth option for somebody.
Mm-hmm. And this offense right now would have been really good.
Right. And right now it's LSU, and they're going to definitely benefit from him as a fifth or sixth option. Why? Because he's not going to be required to have the ball. He's going to be someone that people are going to have to respect because they've been able to see his athleticism and what he could do. But now it looks like we may have replaced that with our guy, Jaren Kanak, in the tight end room. He, rumor has it, based upon some of the practice reports that's coming out on the social medias and or whatnot and stuff that's been sent to me, is he looks good. But he was also an athletic freak on the offensive side of the ball when he was in high school. If you go back and watch his high school tape, he trucks people and runs people over and he pushes them down and he keeps going. There's one tape of him scoring a touchdown where I think he ran over 7 people to get to the end zone. And he kept hitting people, pushing them down, hitting, boom, 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 and he just literally caught it and was gone. That's what we can expect. Maybe not the running over people a lot, but you can expect him to be very productive at tight end, especially because he's a willing blocker. He likes hitting people. And he even said it himself in some of the interviews that one of the biggest things is that no matter how many hours he put in, how much time he trained, it just linebacker just wasn't sticking and it just wasn't working out. And so he realized that, he recognized it, he acknowledged it. And when he went in and talked to the coach, he said, it's just not coming to me. So I'm ready to try something different. And boom, he's now playing tight end, and he may end up being one of your top guys, even like an H-back role, right? Having a guy that, can come in and is a willing blocker, someone can go in the flats, and he's still fast. Remember, I think he ran like a 10.400. So he's very fast. Yeah. John, that was his biggest problem at linebacker was he was running to the wrong spot really, really fast. And so he couldn't make it up like you would like, but I think he's going to be a threat at tight end and at least give us some additional competencies that we've been needing.
Yeah, I love this quote from him. He says, "I've been an offensive guy my whole life. Getting this opportunity now to do that again, catch balls and have fun and block and all that stuff, it's a great opportunity. I probably didn't start thinking about it real seriously until this last year because it almost felt like if I would have done it in the first few years, that's like giving up. I wanted to be able to maximize and say that I fully actually gave the linebacker thing a shot. And I feel like it's just like anything. If you're working towards something hard or trying a new position, you're going to have struggles. So it was a battle between trying to decide, are these the bumps and bruises that come along with becoming a great player at linebacker, or is this God telling me this is not where I'm supposed to be?" Yeah. And then this one right here, "I've given so much to this program and built these relationships for 3 years now. I just have such tight ties and such a deep love for what it means to be a Sooner, what it means to play football here." How can you not be rooting for this guy? Like, this is like Jaren Kanak probably went from somebody who was in a lot of Oklahoma Sooner fans' doghouse, if we're going to be quite frank, to potentially could be a fan favorite and be one of those guys that goes down in Oklahoma Sooner fandom lore as like, yeah, Jaren Kanak, that was my guy. Like, especially if he can go and have a significant role at tight end and make some catches and make some big time plays and have a nice season at tight end and be productive. It's really possible he could completely flip the script on his Oklahoma Sooner career because of some of these comments that he's making, but also just the ability, dude. The guy has insane ability. And honestly, this is part of the reason why Cam Scatterbo had to go to Sacramento State before getting to Arizona State. Very few teams were going to allow Jaren Kanak to play running back at the collegiate level.
Yeah.
At the FBS level, at the Power 5 level. And so he kind of had to make a switch if he wanted to go Power 5. It sucks, but that's the reality of the world that we live in, unfortunately. But the dude's got all the athleticism in the world to be a dynamic playmaker on offense.
And that's what's fascinating about that, John, if you really think about it. I mean, let me pull this up really quick. I have the roster in front of me. Jaren Kanak comes in now that he's moved to I forgot they moved him to tight end. He's 6'2", 230 pounds. John, tell me what running back you wouldn't mind having on your roster that's 6'2", 230 pounds, or 220 when he came in. That's a very nice size running back. Why would you ever pass on somebody like that? And for him, it was he wanted to play linebacker. He wanted to give that a shot, and they saw that he's a willing hitter, and so that's kind of a little bit better, to play linebacker than it would be playing in the backfield for him. But at that size, you're right. I mean, Cam Scatterbo had to go somewhere else in order to get the opportunity, and Jaren Kanak kind of had to as well. Well, now we're going to get to see him. We actually may see him in some end arounds. And to be honest, I wouldn't mind seeing him at his speed and power in an end around. Give me something, toss him a screen and have him run, because he's built for that. That is what Jaren Kanak is built for. And like he said, even in an interview, he's always been an offensive guy. And so at this point for Jaren Kanak, this is an opportunity for not only redemption of him not really working out as linebacker, but you're right. He can end up being a fan favorite, and he should. He's talked about how much he just loved this program, and he's never even thought about transferring. Like, I've heard so many people tell me, well, Jaren Kanak's going to hit the portal. I'm like, really? What makes you think that? Oh, I mean, he's just not working out there. He's going to enter the portal. I was like, who told you that? Well, I mean, I understand reading the tea leaves and thinking you're reading tea leaves, but the one thing to understand about Jaren Kanak, and he told you, he loves this place. And I knew that he loved BV and that there was no chance that he was going to hit the portal or they were going to force him to portal. They may have, I could totally see them keeping him around just to play special teams, just because he's got that kind of talent. But they're trying to find a way to maximize all that talent. And this might be it.
I think, I don't want to completely oversell the idea of him.
Yeah.
He is a little bit undersized. You probably want your tight ends to be 245 to 250 in the SEC in particular. He's a little bit short. You're generally looking at 6'4", 6'5" for guys that can go be NFL tight ends, but he could just be a do-it-all kind of a player, like in the, Trey Millard, Dimitri Flowers, that H-back role. And to be honest, like let him return some kicks. Like just get him the ball somehow, some way. These tight end flat passes that coaches love to run, where you're running that play action bootleg, who better to get it to than freaking Jaren Kanak, and let him get out in space and take on a cornerback out in the flat. Please. Like that is going to be money. Like if you want to run a tight end screen with anybody, run it with that dude. I hate the tight end screen. Absolutely hate it. If I was an offensive coordinator, it would be nowhere near my playbook, because you're giving it to one of your least athletic skill players and expecting him to gain positive yardage out of that. And I feel like it works like 1 time out of 10. But if you're going to do it with somebody, do it with somebody that's got 10-5, 100-yard dash speed and athleticism like Jaren Kanak.
I'll take 2.
Could he be a breakout player of the year? Who knows? But, man, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch his progression this offseason and through the 2025 season. What's not fun? We got some commitment drama, recruitment drama coming up next year on Locked On Sooners.
Look to optimize your nutrition this year, just like your boy. Factor makes eating well easy with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh, never frozen, and ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences every week, you can customize your meals to fit your lifestyle, whether it's Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. Plus, Factor can even offer wholesome smoothies. They got breakfast and grab-and-go snacks to keep you fueled all day long. Like me, I love me some Factor. I've been using them for a while. I am on the Protein Plus right now because, I'm trying to get to that winter bulk season while at the same time slim and cut up. But the best part is those breakfasts. They have these little egg bites that you can warm up. Chef's kiss. The convenience is unbeatable. No prep, no mess, just great food in minutes. So eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/lockedoncollege 50 off and use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE50 off at factormeals.com/lockedoncollege50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box.
Thanks again for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So the Oklahoma Sooners quarterback commit Jaden O'Neal reportedly visited UGA spring practice on Monday, according to Steve Wiltfong and one of the Georgia guys over there at On3. A little bit discouraging, man. I'm a big Jaden O'Neal fan. I think he's got a ton of talent. I think the ceiling is really, really high for this kid. And we know about the Bowe Bentley pursuit. Oklahoma is trying to also bring in Bowe Bentley, trying to add a second quarterback. Just seems like this one might be trending to where Jaden O'Neal might be exploring these other options pretty seriously at this point.
Yeah, and I totally understand it, right? Like, Oklahoma's plan is to take 2 quarterbacks in this class, and it's more so the economics behind it. Looking at the fact that they have, with John Mateer, if he is what we believe that he could potentially be, there's a chance that he's gone at the end of the year. Cole Gonzalez is gone. So that's 2 quarterbacks already gone. You bring in Jaden O'Neal, you got Jet New, and you got Michael Hawkins. Now, your options are to go get yourself a, serviceable quarterback out of the portal, or why not just have 2 freshmen who will, honestly, in the economics and financially when it comes to the cap, will be a heck of a lot better to have up front in comparison to try to get a guy to transfer in that most likely doesn't have a path to play. I mean, we lost Brendan Zerbrook specifically because of that. Now he's at Utah, and there's probably a good chance that Zerbrook gets a chance to play there because I think he's super talented as well. But Oklahoma's goal is to make sure you have at least 4 quarterbacks in the pantry, maybe 5. And it's not that easy to get guys to stick around, especially with the roster limits. You can only have so many, so you're going to have to figure out how to adjust things. But for Oklahoma in this situation with Jaden O'Neal, I get that their mindset is, okay, you're going after another quarterback. We want to make sure that you're as committed to us as we are to you But we're also gonna, we're gonna see what other options are out there just in case you decide that we're just gonna go ahead and go one quarterback and do something different. I don't know that the feeling is. I mean, Jaden O'Neal mentioned that in an interview that they were pretty shocked that they were informed that they were getting another quarterback, and then the offer went out. But then, the conversation, kind of tied things over. But also, John, Jaden is here in Oklahoma now. He's playing at Mustang. So to me, the biggest fear that people have is that he's about to decommit. I'm going to tell you no. I'm going to say that that's not what's going to happen. And that's just in conversations I've had with him and his people. I don't expect any type of decommitment unless Oklahoma tells him, hey, we're going to go ahead and move on. Now, when Bowe Bentley commits, if he does commit to Oklahoma, there may be a clock that goes, but I don't expect to see anything in between the two. I do expect Oklahoma to really pursue and push and get 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things. Like you're as talented as a kid as Jaden O'Neal. You're being pursued by a lot of top programs. Again, Georgia, like Kirby Smart coming after you. You've got something to bring to the table. How much do you want to? I don't want to say share the spotlight, but share the attention, I guess. And maybe that's not even the best word phrasing either, but how much do you want to feel appreciated and feel pursued? And, it's like, if you're going after a girl, how's she going to feel if you decide, hey, actually, I'm going to start talking to this other girl too? Not great. And it's different. It's not apples to apples comparisons, but there's something to that, right? Like,
yeah.
If you're the top target at the position, it's understandable why you might feel like, okay, maybe I need to make sure I have options elsewhere if this isn't going to work out. He committed to a completely different offensive coordinator. It's not unlikely to see some transition when there's a new offensive coordinator in place. That's just kind of the way things go. And I think that's why we saw Ben Arbuckle bring in Jet New. That's why we've seen the pursuit of Bowe Bentley. It's okay. He has his own vision as well. And respect to Ben Arbuckle. He's done a great job with quarterbacks. He's allowed to have that as well. It's just kind of a bummer that maybe Jaden O'Neal is not part of the class. Moving on to a Rivals Future cast that was put in for one Evenson Malaska, the Bethany High School product. He's listed as an athlete. He's one of those guys you could play on either side of the ball, and I would be just fine with because he's just a dynamic football player.
Yes. Nice little corner. Like I say, he's listed as an athlete. Know he's going to play corner just like his brother, Jocelyn Malaska, who's already here, transferred in from Utah. And I think he's fine as far as talent. He's not really ranked by anybody as of yet, still young. Once he start hitting camps and start going places, I think that you may see him shoot up the ladder, or if he has an exceptional season. Sometimes you got to just go find the diamonds in the rough when it comes to talent. And the good thing is that when the crystal ball came down from Sam Spiegelman, this is now after, Jim Nagy's got an opportunity to see people. Like, Nagy is here now, and he's really running things on the recruiting. You see him scouting his own players, and he was scouting heavy at the future freaks. That was one thing I saw one of the insiders make mention of, is that you knew that Nagy was meeting people. He was paying attention to them. He was seeing how the players moved, and he's looking at their measurables, probably starting to look at tape. So to me, what it seems like is now Nagy has an opportunity to decide what makes sense on who to get and who what not to get. That even includes Jaden O'Neal. Nagy's going to try to find the players that makes the most sense for the team based upon all the criteria that both of them come up together. And so I like that Alaska, is getting CB'd here, get the crystal ball, the prediction future cast to Oklahoma, because I always have the OK prep agenda going, because as you get more and more talent here, there's years where we have 5 stars. There's years we have very high 4-star players. I mean, your Danny Okoye's of the world's a great example of that, right? You want to be able to land those players and keep them home and not allow other schools to snatch them up. I like the idea that we're going to continue to do that and get more players out of Bethany, because when we talk about tomorrow, we got to talk about a couple positions, and one of them is Cheetah, and there's a kid from Bethany there that has been lighting things up.
Yeah.
Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, that's one of those we got to talk about. Taylor Heim for sure, but with with Evenson, like, he's such a interesting player to watch, because you look at the size and you think, okay, he plays cornerback, but you watch him play cornerback, and I highly recommend everybody go watch his huddle. He plays physical. Like he will come up and pop a kid. And that's really fun to watch. Like kind of reminds me a little bit of Gentry Williams, right?
Yes.
You know, someone that plays with a little bit of an edge. And then when I was talking about earlier that put him on the offensive side of the ball, I don't care. The dude moves really, really well with the ball in his hands. Like he could be a potential punt returner for you because he's just really good with the ball in space. He can make guys miss in the open field, got good speed. Just really, really like the kid. He's unrated anywhere you look, basically. But don't let that fool you. There have been a lot of good players that were unrated. Remember, Ryan Foje was unrated at one point in time.
Yep. And I remember people laughed at me when I got excited about him at 3-star when I talked about his footwork and the way he can move. I'm like, I think that he's just underrated. I don't think people are paid attention to him. And then sure enough, right afterwards, John, he became number 10 in the country.
Yeah. When Bill Beatonbow offered him, he was not rated by anybody. So anyway. So that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in, being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Go check him out at Unfair Sports on YouTube. Follow me at John9Williams. You can read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. You can follow the show on all your favorite social media platforms at Locked On Sooners. Go check out the Locked On College Basketball podcast with Andy Patton and Isaac Shade, getting you ready for everything that's going to go down in March Madness, getting your brackets ready so you're not getting busted in the tournament of 68. Locked On College Basketball is available wherever you get your podcast. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer.
Sooner.